My beloved child, before you listen any further, I want you to answer one question, not out loud, just inside your heart. Have you ever prayed the same prayer so many times that you eventually stopped expecting an answer? Perhaps at first, you prayed with confidence. You believed the breakthrough was close. You believed I heard every word. You believed something would change. But days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. And somehow, the silence became louder than your faith. My child, I know that feeling. I know what it is like for you to look around and quietly wonder, Lord, are you listening? Do you still hear me? Did I do something wrong? Why does it seem like nothing is changing? Maybe you have never spoken those questions aloud because you were afraid they sounded like doubt. So instead, you carried them alone. Every time another prayer seemed unanswered, a little more hope slipped away. You continued praying, but not with the same expectation. You continued believing, but not with the same confidence. You continued waiting, but every passing day made your heart whisper, maybe this prayer isn't meant for me. My beloved child, if that is where you are today, please stay with me, because I have brought you here for a reason. I want to speak directly to the place where disappointment has quietly settled inside your heart. Not the disappointment you show other people, the disappointment you rarely admit even to yourself. The disappointment that says, I've been faithful, so why does it still hurt? I've trusted you, so why hasn't anything changed? I've cried out to you, why does heaven feel so quiet? My child, those questions do not scare me. I have never turned away someone because they came to me honestly. I already know what your heart is carrying. You do not have to pretend with me. Please hear what I am about to say. My silence has never meant my absence. Read those words again in your heart. My silence has never meant my absence. There are moments when you cannot hear my voice. Not because I have stopped speaking, but because I am working in places your eyes cannot yet see. Think about a seed. The day it is planted, nothing appears to happen. The soil looks exactly the same. There is no movement, no leaves, no branches, no fruit. If someone judged only by what they could see, they would conclude that nothing was happening. But beneath the surface, life has already begun. Roots are growing. The seed is breaking open. A future tree is quietly taking shape. All of it happens long before anyone sees the first sign above the ground. My child, how often have you judged my work only by what is visible? You pray, then you immediately look for evidence. You ask, then you search for change. You wait, then you measure my faithfulness by what you can see with your eyes. But I have never been limited to what is visible. Some of my greatest works begin where human eyes can no longer follow. Please stay with me, because I want to ask you something. When Joseph was sold into slavery, did it look like I was working? When he sat inside an Egyptian prison, did it appear that I had forgotten my promise? When years passed without freedom, would anyone have guessed that I was preparing him to save nations? No. From the outside, everything looked wrong. Everything looked delayed. Everything looked unfair. Yet behind every closed prison door, I was arranging a future Joseph could never have imagined. My child, could it be that your life feels delayed only because you cannot yet see what I am preparing? Please don't answer too quickly, because your heart naturally measures time differently than mine. You count days. I see generations. You focus on the next step. I see the entire journey. You see one unanswered prayer. I see every answer that is already moving toward you, my beloved child. There are prayers you have already forgotten, that I have never forgotten. There are tears you cried years ago that are still precious to me. There are promises you believe have expired, that remain alive in my hands. Nothing you have entrusted to me has been lost. Nothing. My child, do you remember the story of Lazarus? When word reached me that he was sick, I did not leave immediately. To everyone watching, it looked as though I had ignored the situation. By the time I arrived, Lazarus had already been buried. The people around him believed hope had ended. Even Martha said, "Lord, if you had been here." She believed I had arrived too late. But my child, I was never late. I was working towards something they could not yet understand. What looked like delay became the greatest miracle they had ever witnessed. Today, somewhere inside your heart, you may also be saying, "Lord, if only you had answered sooner. If only you had opened that door. If only you had healed them. If only you had changed the situation." My child, you do not yet know everything I have protected you from. You do not yet know every door I quietly closed to save you from future pain. You do not yet know every heart I am changing before bringing it into your life. You do not yet know every detail I am arranging while you sleep. Because while you are waiting, I am working. While you are praying, I am moving. While you are wondering, I am preparing. Even now, as you listen to this message, things are changing that you cannot yet see. Conversations are unfolding. Hearts are softening. Doors are being positioned. Timing is coming together. Circumstances are shifting, not because you forced them, but because I am faithful to what I have promised. Please don't leave yet, because in the next part, I want to reveal why my silence is often misunderstood. You have believed that if you cannot hear me, then perhaps I have stopped listening. But I am about to show you something that has always been true. Even in the silence, I have never stopped hearing every prayer you have whispered. My beloved child, stay with me, because now I want to speak to one of the greatest fears hidden inside many faithful hearts. It is not the fear of suffering. It is not even the fear of waiting. It is the fear of being forgotten. Somewhere deep inside, you have begun asking yourself, "Lord, have you forgotten me?" Perhaps you would never say those words in church. Perhaps you have never spoken them to another person. But in the quiet moments, when another prayer seems unanswered, when another day passes without change, when another disappointment arrives, that question quietly returns, "Have you forgotten me?" My child, please hear me with all your heart. I have never forgotten you, not for one moment, not for one single breath, not for one single tear, not even once. Before you prayed your first prayer, I already knew your need. Before you cried your first tear, I already saw your pain. Before you asked for my help, I had already begun writing the answer into your story. Because I do not learn about your life as it unfolds. I have seen your entire journey from the beginning. My child, do you remember Hagar? She felt abandoned, rejected, invisible. She believed no one saw her suffering. Yet in the wilderness, I met her, and afterward she gave me a beautiful name, El Roi, the God who sees me. My child, that has always been who I am. I see you. When everyone else overlooks your pain, I see you. When no one notices your quiet sacrifices, I see you. When your prayers seem to disappear into silence, I still hear every word. Please, don't confuse my quietness with forgetfulness. They are not the same. Please stay with me. Think about a master builder constructing a great cathedral. For months, sometimes years, workers spend their days laying foundations, digging deep into the earth, pouring concrete, setting stones no one will ever admire. People walking past may wonder, why is nothing happening? Why isn't the building going up? They only see empty ground, but the builder knows something they do not. The part no one celebrates is the part that holds everything together. My child, Could it be that I have been strengthening the unseen foundations of your life? Could it be that while you were praying for visible change, I was preparing invisible strength? Strength that will sustain the blessing once it arrives. Because, my child, I care about what lasts, not what impresses people for a moment. Please hear this carefully. You often ask me, Lord, when will you answer? But sometimes I lovingly ask you, my child, are you ready for the answer you are praying for? Not because I wish to withhold good things from you, but because I love you enough not to place something in your hands before your heart is ready to carry it. Think about David. Long before he wore a crown, he spent lonely years tending sheep. Nobody applauded him. Nobody knew his name. The throne seemed impossibly far away. If David had judged my faithfulness by his surroundings, he might have believed I had forgotten him. But while he watched sheep, I was shaping a king. Every quiet valley, every lonely night, every unseen battle was preparing him for a responsibility far greater than he could yet imagine. My child, preparation often feels like abandonment until you finally see what I was preparing you for. Please don't miss that, because it changes everything. The waiting has not been meaningless. The silence has not been empty. The delay has not been wasted. Every season has been accomplishing something, even when you could not see it. Please stay with me. Remember Noah, year after year. He built an ark under clear skies. People laughed. Nothing changed. No rain, no flood, no visible sign that my promise would come to pass. Can you imagine how many mornings Noah woke up wondering if anyone believed him? Yet he kept building, not because he could already see the rain, but because he trusted the one who had spoken. My child, faith has never been the ability to see everything. Faith is trusting my character when you cannot yet understand my timing. Please hear what my word says. We walk by faith, not by sight. Not because sight is unimportant, but because sight is incomplete. You only see today's chapter. I already see the ending. You only see closed doors. I see the doors that are quietly opening. You only see silence. I hear conversations taking place that you know nothing about. You only see waiting. I see pieces coming together with perfect precision. My beloved child, while you have been wondering, why isn't anything happening? I have been moving hearts, opening opportunities, closing dangerous paths, protecting you from decisions you would later regret, arranging meetings, changing circumstances, preparing people, teaching lessons, healing wounds, building your faith. None of those things happen overnight, but all of them matter. Please don't leave yet, because there is something beautiful I want to reveal next. You have been measuring my faithfulness by what you can already see, but my greatest work often begins long before anyone notices it. In the next part, I want to show you why some of my greatest miracles start completely out of sight, and why, even now, I am already moving in ways you cannot yet imagine. My beloved child, stay with me, because now we have reached the truth I have wanted to place inside your heart since the very beginning. If you remember only one thing from this message, remember this: just because you cannot see me working does not mean I have stopped working. Please, let those words settle deep into your soul, because for far too long, you have believed that visible progress is the only evidence of my presence. If the situation changes, you believe I am working. If the door opens, you believe I have answered. If the miracle happens quickly, you believe I have heard your prayer. But my child, have you forgotten who I am? I am the God who specializes in working where human eyes cannot see. Before I change circumstances, I often change hearts. Before I open doors, I prepare people. Before I fulfill promises, I prepare those who will receive them. Because, my child, I am never interested in giving you a blessing that your heart is not yet prepared to carry. Please stay with me. Think about a master composer writing a beautiful symphony. Before the audience hears even one note, countless hours have already been spent in silence. The music exists long before anyone hears it. The masterpiece is already taking shape, even though the concert has not yet begun. My child, that is often how I work. The miracle begins long before it becomes visible. The answer begins long before it arrives. The breakthrough begins long before you recognize it. That is why waiting does not mean nothing is happening. It simply means much of what I am doing is happening beyond what your eyes can currently understand. Please hear this carefully. Some of the greatest answers to your prayers begin inside people you have never even met. While you are praying for a new opportunity, I may already be preparing the person who will one day open that door. While you are praying for restoration, I may already be softening another person's heart. While you are praying for healing, I may already be arranging the right doctors, the right timing, the right treatment, or even strengthening your spirit in ways that will sustain you regardless of the outcome. My child, you see one piece of the puzzle. I hold every piece. Please don't miss that, because it changes the way you wait. You have been standing in front of a closed curtain, assuming nothing is happening behind it. But behind that curtain, I have never stopped moving. Please think about Esther. She was an orphan, a young woman living in circumstances she never would have chosen. Nothing about her daily life suggested that she was part of a divine rescue plan. She could not see what I was arranging. She did not know that kings, kingdoms, conversations, and history itself were quietly moving toward the moment I had already prepared. When the right time came, everything that had seemed ordinary suddenly revealed my extraordinary purpose. My child, the miracle did not begin the day Esther stood before the king. It began years earlier, in places she never noticed. That is how I often work in your life as well. You celebrate the breakthrough, but I have been building it long before you ever recognized it. Please stay with me. Think about a farmer. He plants the seed, then he goes home. He does not dig up the soil every morning to check if it is growing. He trusts the process. He waters. He waits. He believes. Because he understands something important. Growth often happens silently, my beloved child. Why then do you become discouraged every time you cannot immediately see what I am doing? Have I not been faithful before? Have I not carried you through seasons you thought would destroy you? Have I not opened doors you never expected? Have I not protected you from dangers you never even knew existed? Look back for a moment. There were prayers I answered that you did not recognize until years later. There were disappointments that later became protection. There were closed doors that eventually became reasons for gratitude. There were delays that saved you from heartbreak. At the time, you called them silence. Today, you call them wisdom. My child, could this season become another one of those moments? Could it be that one day, you will look back and say, "Now I understand why God waited. Now I understand why He said no. Now I understand why He remained quiet, not because my silence was empty, but because it was full of unseen activity." Please hear me carefully. The enemy wants you to quit one step before the breakthrough. He whispers, "Nothing is changing. Stop praying. Stop believing. God has moved on." But my child, the enemy only sees the surface. He cannot see my hands. He cannot stop my timing. He cannot cancel my promises. He cannot rewrite the future I have already prepared for my children. That is why he tries to discourage you before the harvest appears. Because if he can convince you to stop trusting, you may walk away just before seeing what I have been preparing all along. Please don't leave yet. because there is one more truth I want you to understand. Sometimes, the greatest miracle is not the answer I am preparing for you. Sometimes, the greatest miracle is the person I am preparing you to become while you wait. Because blessings may change your circumstances, but waiting, when surrendered to me, changes your heart. And a transformed heart will always be greater than temporary comfort. This is the big reveal. I have never been standing still. I have never forgotten your prayer. I have never stopped working. Even when heaven seemed silent, my hands were moving. Even when nothing appeared to change, I was arranging what only I could arrange. Even when your eyes saw an empty stage, behind the scenes, I was preparing the next chapter of your story. Please stay with me, because in the next part, I want to show you why what you call waiting may actually be one of the greatest acts of preparation I have ever done in your life. Because, my beloved child, I am already moving, and I always finish what I begin. My beloved child, stay with me, because now I want to show you something that may completely change the way you see this season of waiting. For so long, you have looked at your life and quietly thought, nothing is happening. Everything feels stuck. I'm in the same place I was months ago. Lord, why aren't you moving? But my child, what if you have misunderstood this season? What if what you call waiting is actually preparation? Please think about that. Because preparation rarely feels exciting. It often feels slow, quiet, hidden, sometimes even lonely. You pray, yet the answer does not come immediately. You keep obeying, yet the breakthrough seems delayed. You continue trusting, yet the circumstances refuse to change. And because nothing visible appears to happen, you begin believing that nothing is happening at all. My beloved child, that has never been true. Some of the most important work I do happens long before anyone else can recognize it. Please stay with me. Think about an arrow before it moves forward. It must first be pulled backward. From the outside, it appears to be moving away from its destination. But the one holding the bow understands something different. The backward movement creates the strength needed to send it farther than it could ever go on its own. My child, perhaps you have mistaken my preparation for my delay. Perhaps this season that feels like you are being pulled backward is actually preparing you to move farther than you ever imagined. Please hear me carefully. I am never in a hurry, because I am never late. You hurry because you only see today's need. I move with perfect wisdom because I already see tomorrow. I know what tomorrow requires. I know the people you have not yet met. I know the opportunities that are still coming. I know the conversations already waiting for you. I know the blessings that are drawing near. And because I know all of that, I also know who you must become before those blessings arrive. My child, sometimes you ask me to change your circumstances, while I am changing your heart. Sometimes you ask me to remove the obstacle, while I am strengthening your faith. Sometimes you ask me to open the next door, while I am teaching you to trust me in the hallway. Neither work is wasted. Both are preparation. Please remember Joseph. For years, nothing about his life made sense. His dreams seemed impossible. His prison cell seemed permanent. His future seemed forgotten. But every difficult season was quietly preparing him. The betrayal taught him forgiveness. The prison taught him patience. The loneliness taught him dependence on me. The waiting taught him humility. By the time the palace doors finally opened, Joseph had already become the man capable of carrying the responsibility waiting for him. My child, if I had promoted him too early, the blessing might have crushed him. Preparation protected him, and it is protecting you too. Please don't miss that, because many people pray for blessings without realizing they are also praying for responsibilities. The larger the assignment, the deeper the preparation. That is why I never measure time the way you do. You count how long you have been waiting. I see how much you have been growing. You count unanswered prayers. I count every lesson shaping your heart. You count delays. I count preparation. My beloved child, there are things I can only teach you in quiet seasons. Patience cannot grow overnight. Faith cannot mature without trust. Hope cannot deepen unless it has first been tested. Compassion often grows through suffering. Wisdom is usually born from waiting. These gifts cannot be rushed. They must be formed. Please hear what my word says. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Notice, the promise is not merely that waiting ends. The promise is that while you wait, I renew you. The waiting itself becomes part of the miracle, because while you believe nothing is changing, I am changing you. And sometimes, the greatest answer to your prayer is not simply changing your situation. It is transforming the person who will one day walk into that answered prayer. Please stay with me. Imagine a sculptor creating a masterpiece. Every strike of the chisel removes something. From the outside, it looks like loss, but the sculptor sees beauty emerging. My child, you have been grieving everything that has been removed from your life. The opportunities, the relationships, the plans, the expectations. But I have been shaping something more beautiful than you can presently imagine. Nothing I remove is without purpose. Nothing I allow is without meaning. Nothing you surrender is ever wasted. Please don't leave yet, because there is one final truth I want to leave with your heart. In the last part, I want you to see why you can continue praying with confidence, even when heaven feels quiet. Because, my beloved child, the answer you are waiting for may already be much closer than you realize. While you have been wondering if I was listening, I have been preparing the perfect moment to reveal my faithfulness. My beloved child, before this message comes to an end, there is one final truth I want to leave deep within your heart. A truth I pray you will remember, not only today, but every time another prayer seems unanswered, every time another door remains closed, every time heaven feels quiet. My child, do not mistake my silence for my absence, and do not mistake your waiting for my inactivity, because even now, while you are listening to these words, I am moving. Not someday, not eventually. Now. You simply cannot see everything I am doing yet. Please hear me. You have spent so much time watching what has not changed, that you have almost forgotten to notice everything that has. Think back for a moment. Are you the same person you were 1 year ago? The same faith, the same patience, the same compassion, the same dependence upon me? No, my child. Even before your circumstances changed, I began changing you. And that is one of the greatest miracles I perform, because circumstances can bless your life, but a transformed heart changes your eternity. Please stay with me. Imagine standing outside a theater before the curtain rises. The audience sees only a closed curtain. Everything appears still. Nothing seems to be happening. But behind that curtain, people are moving. Lights are being adjusted. Voices are preparing. Every detail is falling perfectly into place. The audience calls it waiting. The director calls it preparation. My child, your life has felt like that. You have been staring at the curtain, wondering why nothing is happening. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I have been arranging every detail with perfect wisdom. Conversations you know nothing about, people you have not yet met, doors you cannot yet see, protection you never noticed, blessings that are drawing nearer with every passing day. Nothing has been standing still, only hidden. Please don't miss that, because if you believe nothing is happening, you may become discouraged and stop praying right before the answer begins to appear. The enemy understands something many of my children forget. He cannot stop my promises. So he tries to stop your expectation. He whispers, "Give up. Nothing will ever change. God isn't listening. Your prayers don't matter anymore." My beloved child, those whispers have never come from me, because my voice always calls you toward hope, toward faith, toward trust. Even in the waiting, please remember Daniel. The day he prayed, I heard him. Not weeks later, not after 21 days, the very first day. Yet the visible answer took time to arrive. If Daniel had judged my faithfulness by what he immediately saw, he would have believed I was silent. But heaven had already begun moving. The answer had already been sent. The battle had already begun. The miracle was already on its way. My child, how many of your prayers are like that? You assume heaven is quiet when heaven is already moving. You assume I have forgotten when I have already begun answering. You assume the story has stopped when I am quietly writing the next chapter. Please hear me carefully. There are answers you are praying for today that are already making their way toward your life, not because you earned them, not because you prayed perfectly, but because I am faithful, and my faithfulness does not depend upon your ability to see what I am doing. It depends upon my unchanging character. My beloved child, I know waiting is difficult. I know unanswered questions can become heavy. I know there are nights when your heart grows tired. I know there are mornings when faith feels harder than it used to. But please, don't stop praying. Not because I need to be reminded, but because prayer keeps your heart connected to mine. Prayer is not simply asking for answers. Prayer is walking with me while the answer is still coming. Prayer is trusting my heart, even when you cannot yet understand my hands. Please stay with me for one final promise. There will be moments when you still wonder. There will be days when you still feel impatient. There will be seasons when nothing appears to change. When those moments come, remember this: I have never ignored one sincere prayer. I have never forgotten one tear. I have never abandoned one promise. I have never stopped working, not for one single moment. My child, one day you will look back on this season, and you will realize the silence that once frightened you was filled with my unseen faithfulness. You will understand why certain doors remained closed, why certain answers took longer, why my timing was different from yours. And when you finally see the whole picture, you will not say, "God was silent." You will say, "God was working the entire time." My beloved child, whenever discouragement whispers, "Nothing is changing," answer it with my truth. God is already moving. When fear tells you to stop praying, say it again. God is already moving. When disappointment tells you to give up, declare it once more. God is already moving. Let those words become an anchor for your soul. Not because you already see the answer, but because you trust the one who is preparing it. My beloved child, keep praying, keep trusting, keep walking. Not because the road is easy, but because I am already waiting for you at the place where your prayers and my perfect timing will finally meet. If this message has encouraged your heart today, I invite you to leave one simple declaration in the comments. Write, "Lord, I trust you, even in the waiting." Let those words become your prayer, not because you understand everything, but because you know the one who holds everything. My beloved child, lift up your eyes. Do not lose heart. Do not give up. The answer may not be visible yet, but my hands have never stopped moving. I am already working. I am already preparing. And at the perfect time, you will see my faithfulness. Amen.